In 1996, in the small town of O.J. Simpson, a very famous criminal case began that captivated America. It all started on a hot summer night when Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend, Ronald Goldman, were found dead outside Nicole's home in Brentwood, California. This shocking event set off a large investigation, drawing attention from law enforcement and the public. O.J. Simpson, a well-known football player and actor, quickly became the main suspect. Nicole and O.J. had a complicated relationship. They were married for several years, but their marriage ended, leading to disputes and tension. After their divorce, there were reports of troubling incidents, where O.J. allegedly abused Nicole. This background made the crime even more painful for the community. The police worked hard to gather evidence, interviewing friends and family, and trying to understand the night of the crime. Witnesses reported hearing screams and seeing a white Ford Bronco leave the area. The atmosphere was tense as news spread quickly, and the public became eager for answers. The media followed every moment, and soon after, O.J. was charged with the murders. America watched closely as the legal system prepared to respond to this shocking case. The stage was set for a dramatic trial filled with surprises and emotions, where the truth would slowly begin to unravel. In the days following the tragic murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, law enforcement faced immense pressure. This was not just another case. It was a high-profile crime that drew the attention of the whole nation. Investigators arrived at the crime scene soon after they received the call. The house was surrounded by police tape, and a crowd gathered, eager to know more. Officers had to keep the scene secure to collect evidence without contamination. Initially, detectives began their work by examining the area closely. They searched for fingerprints, footprints, and anything that could point to a suspect. In the living room, they found dark spots on the carpet, which a forensic team later confirmed were blood. The presence of blood was already a chilling sign that something terrible had happened. As investigators worked, they also interviewed friends and family members. They asked questions about Nicole's relationships, aiming to build a picture of her life. Throughout the investigation, O.J. Simpson was at the forefront of their inquiries. He had been seen at the house before and had a history of strong emotions regarding Nicole. Detectives wanted to find out where he had been at the time of the murders. The public was anxious for news. The media broadcast reports live, creating a sense of urgency and drama. Ordinary citizens, glued to their televisions, shared their opinions. Many people supported law enforcement, while others speculated about O.J.'s innocence. Social media did not exist in the 1990s, but the pressure from television and newspapers was powerful. This attention affected not just the investigation, but O.J. himself. Friends of Nicole urged law enforcement to take the matter seriously, fearful he might evade justice. As the days turned into weeks, the investigation faced several struggles. Eyewitness accounts varied, which made it difficult to piece together the timeline of events. One witness claimed to have seen a black man near the crime scene around the time of the murders. Another said they heard shouting and a woman's voice crying for help. Conflicting testimonies frustrated investigators. Collecting reliable information during this chaotic time felt overwhelming. Then came a surprising twist. After a week, an important piece of evidence was discovered. A bloody glove found at O.J.'s estate. It sent shockwaves through the community and revealed some of O.J.'s personal belongings from the crime scene. The finding of the glove raised the stakes, giving authorities a strong lead, but also igniting intense debate over its significance. Was this glove truly proof of guilt, or just circumstantial evidence? While the detectives worked hard to bring clarity to the case, they too faced self-doubt. They were aware that the world was watching them, and failure was not an option. Each day felt heavy as they balanced the pressure of the public's expectations with their duty to seek the truth. The case became a test of endurance, not just for the investigators but for everyone involved. O.J. Simpson maintained his innocence, while the specter of doubt loomed large. The tension was palpable, creating a complex emotional landscape for everyone touched by this tragic crime. Each step taken in the investigation led closer to the courtroom, where tension would spill into dramatic revelations, leaving everyone eager to know what the truth would be. As the investigation into the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman continued, new pieces of evidence began to emerge. Each discovery felt like a small victory for law enforcement, helping to build their case against O.J. Simpson. With every clue gathered, confidence grew among the detectives. They began to feel that they were getting closer to the truth. One morning, investigators discovered DNA evidence from the crime scene. They found traces of O.J.'s blood in and around Nicole's home. This groundbreaking finding was crucial because it directly linked O.J. to the crime. The team felt a renewed sense of purpose, believing that they had moved from uncertainty to having something solid. These moments of success were significant, as they helped lift the spirits of those working tirelessly on the case. Despite the progress, pressure was mounting. The public impatiently awaited answers, and the media would not let the story rest. Every news channel reported on the case daily, often sensationalizing the details. Investigative journalists were digging deep, chasing leads and grabbing headlines. While their work brought attention to the case, it also created a storm of speculation. Opinions abounded, and with every report, public perception shifted rapidly. Many in the community were eager to support law enforcement, rallying for justice. They felt a strong emotional connection to Nicole and Ronald, who were innocent victims. Yet, the intense media scrutiny also sparked doubt and division. Some people claimed O.J. was being treated unfairly because of his fame, while others saw him as guilty before the trials even began. This atmosphere of conflict was challenging for the police and the legal team, who were focused on finding proof to back up their suspicions. Amidst all of this, the forensic team continued to work tirelessly. They analyzed the evidence day and night, looking for ways to connect the dots more clearly. With each test revealing more results, the strength of their findings grew. The tests on the blood samples matched O.J., indicating that he had been at the crime scene. The detectives' determination strengthened as they celebrated these consistent, solid results. However, they also realized that they needed to prepare for court. Gathering enough reliable evidence for a strong prosecution was critical. Every small win in the investigation was a step forward, but a successful conviction required a mountain of proof. Law enforcement discussed strategies and met with the legal team to plan their approach. As investigators and attorneys rallied together, a sense of unity emerged. Everyone involved understood the significance of the task ahead and felt compelled to give their best effort. They committed to working as a team for justice. Additional evidence emerged during that time as well, including witness statements that corroborated O.J.'s argument. This new information lifted the spirits of those finding success. The media continued to play its role, creating an image of O.J. that varied dramatically from person to person. Some honest reporters attempted to provide accurate perspectives, yet sensationalist headlines dominated. This complicated the emotional stakes, influencing how the community felt about the case and the investigation itself. While the evidence grew, self-doubt lingered in the back of many minds. Would it be enough to ensure a successful prosecution? Would the jury see the truth, or would the overwhelming media influence sway their judgment? Questions remained unanswered, but the determination to find justice pressed on. As long as new evidence surfaced, there remained hope for the team and the community as the dramatic story continued to unfold. As the long-awaited trial of O.J. Simpson began, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Every seat was filled with spectators eager to witness the dramatic clash between the prosecution and the defense. The atmosphere was thick with tension as people came together, knowing they were part of a historic moment. On one side, the prosecution aimed to build a clear case against O.J., while the defense sought to create doubt and find loopholes. The prosecution began their argument with a powerful opening statement. They highlighted the timeline of events and the evidence gathered during the investigation, including O.J.'s blood found at the scene. They presented their main witness, a police officer who provided details about how the investigation unveiled vital clues. The officer testified with confidence, hoping to set a strong foundation for their case. However, the defense was ready to challenge every word. As days went by, dramatic testimonies poured into the courtroom. On one notable day, a close friend of Nicole took the stand. She spoke about Nicole's fear of O.J., shedding light on the tumultuous relationship that led to distress. Her words painted a vivid picture of the emotional turmoil Nicole lived with. The jury listened intently as she described moments of tension and concern, emphasizing that O.J. had shown troubling behavior in the past. After her testimony, the defense cross-examined her, attempting to discredit her statements. The lead defense attorney skillfully asked questions to sow seeds of doubt about the witness's reliability. "How well do you really know their relationship?" he probed, suggesting that conclusions based on feelings might not paint the complete picture. The dynamics in the courtroom swayed. Some jurors seemed uneasy while others leaned in, pondering the credibility of the witness. Throughout the trial, both sides employed specific legal strategies. The prosecution presented scientific evidence, including forensic analysis that seemed strong against O.J. The blood samples linked him to the scene, raising significant concerns about his guilt. However, the defense skillfully pointed out weaknesses in the evidence. They questioned the handling of the evidence and suggested that contamination could have taken place during the investigation. Their focus was on creating reasonable doubt, a goal at the core of every successful defense. One riveting moment came when O.J. himself took the stand. As he spoke, the courtroom held its breath, sensing the weight of his words. O.J. maintained his innocence, insisting he did not harm Nicole or Ronald. His emotional testimony momentarily shifted the atmosphere, even eliciting sighs from some who attended the trial. O.J.'s presence amidst the buzz of conflicting views challenged perceptions. In reaction, the prosecution capitalized on this moment, diving into cross-examination. Their approach was aggressive, attempting to unravel his claims bit by bit. They asked him about his whereabouts on the night of the murders, pushing for inconsistencies while striving to show a lack of an alibi. The jury absorbed each exchange, and all eyes were glued to the drama unfolding before them. As the days turned into weeks, both sides intertwined their narratives, forcing the jury to weigh difficult questions. Each moment in the courtroom revealed more than just evidence. It unfolded a tale of love, violence, and the quest for truth. The tension peaked as opinions of courtroom spectators varied dramatically. The public debate widened, leading to greater discussions of justice and betrayal. Within the walls of that courtroom, the fate of O.J. Simpson rested on the jury's deliberation, a task they did not take lightly. The building intensity in the courtroom signaled a shift in the psyche of all involved. A sense of urgency emerged as witnesses recounted stories that held the truth's golden key. As the climax of the trial approached, the implications of the verdict began to settle in the minds of everyone present. Would the truth emerge from the chaos, or were the foundations of justice destined to be tested? As the trial continued, the air in the courtroom felt charged with energy. Tension hung like a heavy fog as everyone anticipated a turning point. The prosecution prepared to present what they believed was their most powerful piece of evidence. This moment could shift the entire focus of the trial, drawing sharp attention to O.J.'s likely involvement. The day began with a sense of purpose. The prosecutor stood tall, ready to unveil a hidden secret that they believed would astonish the jury. A seasoned forensic expert took the stand, confident and knowledgeable. The courtroom hushed as he began explaining intricate details of the forensic evidence. He described how the blood found at the crime scene matched O.J.'s blood convincingly. He connected this evidence to the timeline, asserting that O.J. had to have been at the scene of the crime. This testimony was powerful and clear, shining a strong light on the prosecution's case. The expert's words struck hard. As he spoke, it became apparent that the courtroom was a pressure cooker, with emotions boiling under the surface. The jury listened carefully, some taking notes, others exchanging glances. The prosecution had drawn a powerful link that could weigh heavily against O.J. The stakes escalated further as they displayed graphic slides relating to the blood findings, heightening the gravity of the situation. Realizing the importance of this testimony, the defense moved quickly to react. They prepared their cross-examination to undermine the forensic details presented. They aimed to cast doubt about the university where the tests were conducted and the methods used by the forensic expert. Stress levels rose as the defense pushed hard, asking challenging questions about potential errors in the process. Tensions flared as emotions clashed. The expert remained calm under pressure, defending his methods and clarifying any questions. Amidst these developments, an unexpected moment of insight occurred. A juror, who had previously appeared entirely focused on the evidence, suddenly shifted in their seat, raising a hand to request clarification. This small act drew everyone's attention. The juror asked the forensic expert if it was possible for the blood evidence to be contaminated in any way, echoing the defense's previous claims about mistakes. The open questioning turned the emotional tide, bringing doubts to the forefront that echoed throughout the courtroom. The defense seized this opportunity, sensing a shift in the atmosphere. They leaned into this momentum, painting a detailed picture of possible contamination. They pulled in details about the carelessness of some investigators, willfully ensuring the jury felt uneasy about the strength of forensic findings. Demonstrating sharp legal prowess, they highlighted various points that led to reasonable doubt, attempting to weaken the connection between O.J. and the crime. Over the next few days, courtroom discussions exploded. Testimonies echoed in the hallways, and various responses were documented by the media, amplifying every moment. Public interest intensified, bound by the drama that unfolded daily. Outside the courtroom, a sense of urgency drove community discussions, with supporters grasping tightly to their positions. Each twist of the trial was followed closely, affecting perceptions of guilt or innocence. As emotions flourished in the room, both sides pushed hard for their version of the truth. The prosecution was determined to maintain focus on what they presented as undeniable proof, while the defense worked to plant seeds of doubt in every juror's mind. The courtroom dynamic swirled with uncertainty and speculation, evident in furrowed brows and anxious glances among spectators. The breaking point approached as the last chapters of this crucial trial unfolded. Each heart raced with anticipation, everyone poised to understand the truth. Would the blood evidence prove decisive, or would the defense dismantle the prosecution's carefully built case and shift the jury's sentiment? The resolution seemed within reach, yet remained shrouded in uncertainty. The jury's decision, looming ahead, could change everything. As the trial approached its conclusion, the defense prepared their closing arguments with precision. The attorney stood before the jury, a sense of resolve in every word. This was their chance to dismantle the prosecution's hard-built case and sow more doubt among the jurors. With the gravity of the moment hanging heavy, the courtroom was silent, waiting for the defense to take their final stand. The defense attorney spoke passionately, reminding the jury of the inconsistencies throughout the trial. They emphasized the weaknesses in the prosecution's evidence, including the blood samples that, they argued, could have been contaminated. "You must question the reliability of the forensic evidence," the attorney urged, their voice steady. They painted a picture of faulty investigation procedures, sowing doubt that maybe they had not investigated thoroughly enough. Each point raised felt like a battle cry, demanding careful consideration from the jurors. As the defense continued, they invoked the human side of the case, appealing to the jurors' sense of empathy. They reminded them that O.J. was more than just a suspect. He was a father, a friend, and a famous figure in the community. This connection brought a wave of emotion as jurors imagined the impact of their decision on O.J. and his family. The courtroom felt the weight of these powerful arguments, creating a duel of emotions where sympathy for both victims and O.J. coexisted. Then, it was time for the prosecution to take the stage one last time. They moved with purpose, using their moment to remind the jury of the brutality of the crime and the lives that were lost. 2 innocent lives were taken, the lead prosecutor declared with intensity, and the evidence points to one man. The prosecution's urgency rang in the ear of the jury, a call to act on behalf of justice. They aimed to cross the divide between emotion and facts, attempting to place O.J. squarely in the spotlight as the choice became clearer. As both sides finished their arguments, the atmosphere reached a boiling point. The jurors, now placed under enormous pressure, prepared to go behind closed doors. With pens in hand and papers covered with notes, they gathered to deliberate what had become a complex web of testimony, evidence, and human lives entwined in tragedy. Outside the courthouse, the tension spilled over into the community. Protesters gathered. Supporters of O.J. and those seeking justice for Nicole and Ronald voiced their opinions loudly. For those involved in the trial, time seemed to stand still. The jurors felt the weight of the community's expectations resting heavily upon their shoulders. Meanwhile, those closely linked to the case reflected upon the experiences that had changed them. O.J. found himself wrestling with the gravity of the charges. His reputation, his freedom, and his future hung in the balance. Personal emotions laid bare. He faced not just his public persona but the emotional toll this trial was taking on him and his loved ones. The families of Nicole and Ronald felt similar turmoil. They had borne witness to the graphic nature of the courtroom discussions, feeling each blow of the back and forth between the legal teams. They were losing hope that real justice would be served. Their connection to this story was equally heavy with grief. They yearned for closure but feared that the complexities of law might result in further pain. As the jury began their deliberations, everyone engaged in the trial was left to ponder their fate and the broader impact on the community. Would they find justice, or would they leave the courtroom with uncertainty lingering? Emotions ran high. The long hours, heart-wrenching testimonies, and diligent preparation led to this pivotal moment. The challenge was monumental, but so too was the opportunity to effect change through the pursuit of truth. The final decisions would echo throughout the lives of everyone invested in the case for years to come, leaving an indelible mark as tension hung in the air. The moment the jury announced its verdict, the courtroom held its breath. When the words "not guilty" rang out, an electric shock of disbelief sliced through the audience. Gasps echoed, and disbelief rippled among everyone present. O.J. Simpson stood still, a mixture of relief and emotion flowing over him. As supporters celebrated, his family rushed to embrace him, overwhelmed with joy. Outside the courtroom, however, reactions were starkly different. The families of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman were devastated. They struggled to comprehend the decision of the jury. Families of victims often hope that justice will be served, but for them, this verdict felt like a barren void swallowing their grief. They were still grappling with the harsh reality of loss, and now they faced the additional anguish of seeing the man they believed to be guilty walk free. The anger was palpable, igniting rallying cries for justice across the community. Loved ones who had suffered from the brutal violence felt betrayed, and the wound opened anew. In contrast, the community dividing lines fractured further. Many people supported O.J., believing he was treated unfairly because of his celebrity status. Others expressed outrage that the justice system had failed to hold someone accountable for such a brutal crime. Media outlets ignited discussions, pushing narratives that highlighted societal divides. Race, fame, and the flaws within the legal system flared up in sharp focus as debate raged on. Interviews flooded television screens, with individuals on both sides expressing their outrage or relief. This case had wider implications for the law enforcement community. Many officers involved took the outcome personally, feeling that years of dedicated work had been undermined in a flash. The blood evidence they collected was crucial, yet the arguments about contamination made many question the effectiveness of their processes. As the public scrutinized the trial, the police force felt pressure to improve their protocols. The trial had put a spotlight on practices that they had taken for granted. In the days that followed the verdict, discussions of reform and accountability began to surface. Whether through police tactics or the way evidence was collected and handled, there was a clear need for change. Law enforcement officers formed committees to address shortcomings, determined to regain public trust, looking toward implementing new policies that could better secure future cases. Moreover, the media was also forced to reflect on its role in this high-profile trial. The frenzy created by constant coverage blurred the lines between sensationalism and responsible journalism. Critics pointed out that the media had fostered a narrative that intensified public opinion, potentially influencing the jury's perception. Journalists experienced backlash for turning tragedy into entertainment. O.J. himself faced a new reality as well. The not guilty verdict did not erase the public scrutiny that would follow him. While many celebrated his triumph, others continued to view him with suspicion. The case would linger in the minds of many, questions about his guilt peppering conversations even after the trial. He would navigate a world colored by public opinion, now a figure of both admiration and disdain, at times feeling trapped by the very support he had sought. As all these perspectives intertwined, the weight of the trial transformed the lives of those touched by its outcomes. Each individual faced the reality of a world reshaped by the ordeal, forcing them to reflect on the resilience of their values and beliefs. In the aftermath, justice felt elusive, leaving scars that could not easily heal. Whether through anger or relief, healing had begun, but a deeper journey of understanding the implications of the case would take time. The community remained in recovery, caught between a desire for justice and acceptance of a trial that would forever change their lives. In the aftermath of the trial, the lives of everyone involved took on new dimensions shaped by the verdict. O.J. Simpson, having been acquitted, faced a complex reality. Although he was free from the immediate threat of imprisonment, his life was far from normal. The not guilty verdict came with its own set of burdens. He dealt with the constant shadow of suspicion, forever tied to the perception of guilt. His days became a cycle of navigating a public that both scrutinized and celebrated him. While cheering crowds celebrated his release, many others saw him as an unsympathetic figure, someone who escaped accountability. Though exonerated in the court of law, O.J. remained forever guilty in the court of public opinion. The media attention didn't end with the trial. Rather, it shifted. Reporters camped outside his home, hoping to capture the smallest glimpse of his life. Each interview or public appearance sparked debates about celebrity culture, race, and the effectiveness of the justice system. O.J. sought to reshape his identity, attempting to find roles and opportunities that would allow him to move past the trial's pain. Across town, the families of Nicole and Ronald processed their own grief in ways that were deeply personal yet shared. The verdict pushed them to reevaluate what justice meant. They grappled with their heartbreak and anger, feeling an emptiness that could not simply be filled by a legal victory. Nicole's family sought to honor her legacy. They became involved in organizations focused on domestic violence awareness, hoping to spread her spirit and experiences to help others. Their mission became one of healing, channeling their energy into advocacy rather than revenge, but the pain never fully left them. The Goldmans worked tirelessly, dedicating themselves to fighting against crimes of violence while continually speaking out against perceived injustices in the system. They thirsted for validation, hoping that by advocating for change, their loved one's memory would resonate beyond the courts. This drive gave them purpose amidst their sadness, but they too faced the challenge of public opinion. Some viewed their efforts as noble and righteous, while others cast them as attention seekers looking to profit from a tragedy. As the months passed, the trial's impact inspired conversations throughout the community on larger social issues. Discussions about race, privilege, and systemic biases emerged in earnest. Scholars and journalists began analyzing the case, considering its impact on future legal precedents and the responsibilities of the media. Victims across the nation felt hopeful that their stories might now receive the attention and seriousness they deserved, pushing against the backdrop of popular culture that has often neglected issues deeply tied to violence. Among law enforcement officials, there was a newfound sense of urgency to reevaluate their training and practices. Many sought to avoid the pitfalls observed during the investigation, from proper evidence collection to ensuring comprehensive handling of high-profile cases. This self-reflection generated initiatives focused on improving public trust, striving to bridge the gap that divided the police from communities. For other players in the case, the repercussions were equally significant. The prosecution team experienced a complex reaction, feeling that they had fought valiantly but had been thwarted by the intricate nature of the case. They reflected deeply on their approaches and techniques, many vowing to improve their strategies for future cases. They understood the immense pressure that came with seeking justice, unsure yet determined to adapt in light of the lessons learned from this experience. In the end, as the trial faded into history, its remnants lingered in the lives of everyone touched by it. Adjusting to life after the storm meant integrating the lessons learned into daily existence. For O.J., the challenge was to redefine himself without being trapped in the shadows of his past. For the families of Nicole and Ronald, it was to ensure that their loved ones would never be forgotten, while advocating for change in a system that felt incomplete. These experiences reflected not just an intense moment in time, but taught hard-earned lessons valuable to a society still grappling with the ongoing pursuit of justice. The legacy of the trial would echo through the years, forever altering the fabric of lives intertwined by tragedy. In the years following the trial of O.J. Simpson, the ripple effects of the verdict continued to be felt across many corners of society. The conclusion of the case sparked significant discussions about race, justice, and the role of celebrity in the criminal justice system. It served as a harsh reminder of the disparities that exist within that system, illustrating how wealth and fame can influence outcomes in ways that might not reflect true justice. O.J. managed to continue living his life, but the shadows of the trial haunted him. Despite being acquitted, he knew many would never see him as innocent. He engaged in interviews, including those where he sought to express remorse and deep reflection on the case's impact. Those moments were filled with vulnerability but also defensive tones. He grappled with acceptance, recognizing that redemption is a journey shaped by both personal choices and public perception. The families of Nicole and Ronald Goldman remained vocal advocates for victims of violence. They pushed forward in their efforts to promote awareness about domestic violence, using their experience to educate others. Public speaking engagements transformed their pain into purpose. They shared Nicole's story widely, pressing audiences to confront uncomfortable truths in hope of change. Their campaign garnered support and led to significant discussions about how victims' voices deserve to be heard, emphasizing the importance of speaking up against abusive relationships. The trial also led to changes within the justice system. The discussions that arose from O.J.'s case initiated conversations on refining rules around evidence collection and handling high-profile cases. Many law enforcement agencies took measures to improve their methods of gathering and preserving evidence to avoid mistakes that could lead to doubts about its credibility. As the public, police, and legal sectors engaged in dialogues, new training fields emerged to build sensitivity around race and bias in criminal justice. Officers began to hold community forums, allowing people to voice concerns and engage with those who protected them. The media, vitally aware of its role, learned from the mistakes made during the trial. Journalists recognized their power and responsibility in framing narratives. News outlets aimed to balance attention to high-profile cases with respect for victims and their families. Discussions regarding ethics in reporting emphasized the need for sensitivity to real human consequences, pushing reporters to reflect on the impact of their choices. There were also legal repercussions stemming from O.J.'s case. Although he escaped conviction in the criminal court, civil cases blossomed as a byproduct of the ongoing discussions. A wrongful death lawsuit from the Goldmans against O.J. ended successfully for them, resulting in a significant financial judgment. This legal success offered a sense of respect and affirmation, restoring their belief that at least in one court, justice was served. As for the broader societal impact, the emotions stirred by O.J.'s trial prompted a national conversation on race relations and domestic violence. Communities began reflecting on how systems should better protect victims. The Simpson trial became a pivotal moment in introducing reforms focused on addressing the needs of vulnerable citizens. In personal terms, the trajectory of the key players shifted as they were each molded by their experiences. While painful memories from the trial lingered, a gradual sense of understanding took root. Growth emerged alongside grief. Each individual learned from their journeys. They adapted their lives to channel their experiences into creating positive change in the world, even amidst the heavy past. With the closing of this chapter, society and those involved began to recognize the importance of compassion, healing, and ongoing dialogues about justice. The impact of the trial reached far beyond the courtroom, a reminder that the quest for justice should never end and that accountability, hope, and change can evolve from even the deepest tragedies. Transformative lessons emerged that would shape the future in meaningful ways, equipping communities to face the complexities of justice head-on, seeking to ensure that every voice could be heard.